Annyeong. Hello, I am the Dark Fae, and welcome back to Confessions of a First-Time Dungeon Master. If you missed the last session, as always, I will put a link for it for you up in the corner. You can go check it out, catch up on what you missed, and then come back here and find out what happened next. So we are now in session 25, so let's get started. Okay, so for this session, as I mentioned in the previous session, Bholger is very heavily influenced by my watching the show Vikings, and thus is very much based like Kattegat. So we started this session with them kind of retconned it a little bit, so like as they were approaching the gate, if there was anything they wanted to ask their escort, their bandit Viking friend, Kartab, if there was anything about the village, or I guess it's more of like, it's like a city town, port city town, and so they kind of just asked him like how the hierarchy works, like how are like laws decided and how are decisions made, etc. And so basically Bholger is ruled by an earl and his wife, and the earl kind of counts as like the lawgiver, and basically essentially all decisions are made and finalized by him. He'll occasionally, of course, take counsel either from his wife or from like a council of the guild heads. But ultimately, like everything is kind of his final decision. If he's away raiding or sailing, then his wife will take over, or if they're both gone, they'll have like some sort of a proxy, but mostly it goes through him. So as they enter, I almost said Kattegat, as they enter Bholger, I kind of tried to describe it kind of like Kattegat, so the buildings aren't like super refined or anything, mostly like wood, some stone. Like the streets there aren't really any roads or streets, it's unpaved, just kind of dirt. There's like geese running around and like livestock and cattle being moved around, and so the outer portion of the city is mostly like farmlands and homesteads, and as you get inside it kind of goes into the more like tannery area and then the blacksmiths areas, and then kind of towards the center of town is the market and the Earl's Hall. So in the Earl's Great Hall, this is kind of where they meet for like, I think in Vikings they call it like tings, but tings, where people can kind of gather if they have any disputes to be settled by the Earl, or like where they gather for feasts and do like general meetings if the Earl has any announcements and such. So they kind of, Kartab leads them to the Great Hall, and some kind of described the inside as kind of, there are these two like almost like thrones, like two large chairs at the end of like at the end of the hall with like a raised stage. There's like two long rectangular like hearths that are lit to kind of keep it warm, and then just like a bunch of tables, and like a lot of people, a lot of Vikings are gathered there. They asked specifically like, what the gender ratio is, and I said it's about like 40-60, 35-65 female to male. There are a few more male warriors, but there are definitely female warriors too, as they are a lot of the female warriors are the ones who defend the Earl's wife, Neora, and like she's kind of in charge of teaching them to fight and like maintaining their forces. But anywho, so now that they're in the Earl's Hall, as they're walking to, they also ask like what the town's conditions are, and like they're not like super poor, but they're not like people in the docks aren't doing super well, since like the fishing and the sailing aspect of the village, the town, the city has kind of been cut off. But they've been doing pretty well with what they've saved and like what they've gotten from raids, so it's not actually that bad. In my players' words, they wanted to see how much they could potentially exploit to get like a better reward. Again, they go off of a lot of, they're calling this as the favorable 5, so they're trying to go off of like doing favors, but the way that they do favors is like they do something for someone without like telling them or agreeing to it beforehand and then expect something in return, which is not how a lot of places deal. So yeah, I don't know. But with that, so they enter the hall. Kartop kind of explains what happened with Quinnem, the other captain who ended up dying in the battle, and that these 5 adventurers have kind of expressed interest in Bholger's plight and might be able to help, given that they are quite strong, versed in magic, and best at them. So the Earl Mangior Évêque finds this proposition like interesting, and I don't remember too much of the details of all the discussion, but basically they say that the 5 of them will stay here in the Great Hall as their honored guests. They'll have a feast in their honor, and then they can talk more business in the morning, since they must have traveled a long way to get to Bholger in the first place. So, feast commence, big dinner, a lot of merriment and drinking and carousing, and occasionally people getting into fights. The party kind of debates a little bit whether they should start a fight to like show off how powerful they are. And I was like, I don't know if you want to start like a full-on brawl in this hall, like in the Great Hall of the Earl, but you can certainly try. They opted not to, and eventually kind of Nayora comes over, the Earl's wife, and kind of talks to them a little bit, kind of asking a little bit about them and where they're from, and like, so are you looking for somebody, or are you out to make a name for yourself in the world, kind of a thing. Kind of using the voices inspired by the Norse Viking accents from the show, because it's a lot of fun. Nayora's basically Lagertha, because let's admit, Lagertha's awesome. And so they talk a little bit, and then eventually, like, they get into a little bit about the details of the creature that is attacking their ships. And this is where I had a lot of fun prepping, because you all know I love prepping like difficult monster encounters. So I'm not going to say what they're facing yet, but maybe you can guess. Let me know in the comments down below what you think it is. But I would say it's pretty difficult. I think the estimated CRs are like 8 to 9-ish. So we'll see. It's a bit of like a character I took and converted to 5e. But yeah. So they start talking a little bit about it. Basically, well, I guess I'll tell you what they describe the creature as, and then you can tell me what you think it is. Actually, I think I just give it away. Basically, they describe it as a large eel creature that's like covered in like armored scales. It's got like the long kind of reptilian kind of a jaw with like sharp teeth and like fins that end in like claws. And it also has like an electric current that kind of runs through its body, so that when it attacks or like someone touches it, they get like a jolt of electricity. And then that it has been kind of, it kind of resides in like in the deep end of the bay, the open maw, and that when ships like get too close, like get to about like the halfway mark, it starts to attack, and basically it will like just like bore holes into the ship, like just ram holes into the hulls of ships to sink them, and then it'll like basically tear the crew apart from there. So they get some information about that, and then kind of are given the night to think about it and come up with ideas or plans on how to face this thing. So they stay at the Earl's Great Hall that night, and then the next day, kind of after discussing some and like talking a little business, they meet up again with the Earl and his wife, who offer 2,000 gold pieces for killing this monster, or like a combination of like gold and like gems, or like gold and like a potential magic item that they had taken from their raids. So the magic items that I had offered were Ring of Protection, a Ring of Resistance, I believe, or Acid, against Acid, Gloves of Missile Snaring, and a Horn of Blasting are the 4 items, and those can all be found, I think, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, or I can also kind of put a brief description of them all here. So the Resistance Ring, the Ring of Protection, it was a Cloak of Protection, excuse me, the Horn of Blasting, and the Gloves of Missile Snaring. You can pause to read those descriptions. And then the whole party seemed pretty into like 2,000 gold, since that's a much larger sum than they've gotten before, minus 1 Valkyrie. Was like, it feels like they're going to get a lot more with their trade routes opening, which is true. I had to roll a persuasion check. She rolled a 4, but I also like offered a magic item anyway. I didn't come up with like the reasoning until later that, well, it's winter's coming, and they have to kind of save up and like make up for what they have lost kind of before winter hits. But that's fine. So basically they can get the gold or gems and 1 magic item of their choosing. So now they go into prep, and this is where I kind of that was nice, and I explained like the mechanics of underwater combat. So, going off of rules as written, kind of, basically melee attacks have a disadvantage if they are not with a dagger, short sword, or like a piercing weapon like a spear or trident, or I think a net. And then ranged weapon attacks, they also have disadvantage unless they're like a crossbow, short bow, or like a spear, trident, etc. And they think is what it is, and they automatically miss if they are beyond their secondary range. So instead of normal attack and disadvantage with a range like 20-60, it is now normal attack and auto miss. And then your speed, unless you have a swimming speed, your speed is halved in the water. And I think those are like the main mechanics for underwater combat. Now, they did ask for a ship. Originally they asked for 2, but the Earl and the people of Bholger can't really sacrifice 2 since so many of their ships have already been lost. So they have 1 ship, and the ship is equipped with 8 ballista, so which are like giant crossbows essentially, 4 on each side of stern and port. So depending on where the creature is, they can have potentially 4 ballista at a time. So basically they are kind of deciding on like a combination of water breathing and water walking to kind of eliminate the whole drowning, difficult terrain part. And then they also like commission a large net to be placed like across the 2 masts of the ship, so that when the creature surfaces or gets in range, they can like cut 2 ropes and the net will drop on top of it. So I think, and then they did some, because Kartab was the one who kind of offered to take them out on the ship to face this thing. They will have a crew of approximately like 10 to 12 people, enough to like man the ballistas on each side. But I'm a little worried tactically about like how tactical I should play this, because as a DM I know that like this creature's intelligent. It has attacked before, and it kind of has a way of attacking. Speaking of, they did also go and talk to a couple survivors from the previous attempt that City had undergone to try and get rid of this thing. There was Boren and Ruhild. Found Boren at the docks, kind of like with an arm in a sling, like trying to very single-mindedly like repair the ship that has just been like blown to smithereens and like somehow made it back to shore. And so he kind of talks about it and says, that outlines how big a disaster it was, saying that like it just kept ramming into the ship underwater, and that eventually kind of broke the hull. It at only one point it surfaced and like broke down the mast, and then it also, along with its like bite and its formidable strength, it also has like a jet of like scalding boiling water that it can fire. So, and then he was just describing like how the destruction was, and like all he remembers like swimming away is kind of like the thing like snatching up his crewmates and friends, and again it was kind of dark, a little dark. So hopefully I think I like outlined enough of like what this thing can do and how big of a threat I think it will be, because that breath weapons can do a lot of damage. And then I go back to the tactics thing, because I feel like a lot of creatures, when they're played by DMs, they'll kind of just like sit in place and let the players like hack away at it. But for things that have like either like a flying speed or like a swimming speed that are in an environment that is very like conducive to those advantages, that's not going to be the case. So I'm worried. I don't know if they necessarily have a way to draw it like out of the water. Like there's nothing right now really to stop it from just keeping underwater, keeping obscured with like kicking up sediment and sand and stuff to cloud the waters, and then to just smash holes in the ship. So I did try to like stress that this is what the creature does. It stays underwater and smashes the ship. How are you going to stop it? So we'll see how they turn out. I'm actually really excited for this encounter, because I think it will be difficult, but it also like it's new for my players. They've never done an underwater combat. They've never been on a ship before. So I hope I didn't like totally misjudge and introduce this too early. But I think it's doable. They just need to be tactical about it, which has not been their strongest suit in the past, but I think they can do it. I think they did like some preparations, and they actually like during the session were like, okay, we want to practice with like water walk and water breathing and see how things work underwater, which was good. And I think they can have enough like buffs, debuffs, that kind of a thing to make it interesting. Don't think it'll be a TPK. Try real hard to not be a TPK, but we'll see. One person might die. We'll see. I don't know. A lot of things could go wrong for both me and for the party, so who knows? The dice will the dice will tell. But I'm really excited to play big creature. There is also potential for it to like run away if it senses that it's not getting an easy kill, since it's smart. So we'll see if it gives chase, and that might lead to something entirely different. I'm having a lot more fun DMing lately. I don't know, I've been really into D&D lately, especially now that Critical Role is back. BT Dubs, check out Critical Role every Thursday at 7 on twitch.tv/Critical Role. Not sponsored, it's just a really good D&D show if you're a fan of D&D. Alright, so that is session 25. I'm excited to come back with the next session and tell you the outcome. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this train of events is interesting, and you're excited for underwater, above water ship combat like I am. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Doing a new thing this month where I put out videos every day, maybe. Hopefully I can keep it going. But I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.